Hi, welcome to our podcast, Broker Banter Denver, where we are breaking down barriers to home ownership. I'm your host, Kim Davis, the real estate expert.
And I'm Patrick Williams, the mortgage guy. We're here to inform and educate about the home buying and finance process.
And today we have guest Jeff Breco. He's with From the Ground Up Home Inspections. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course.
So Jeff and I have been working together for 8 years.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. And so he does most of my buyers' home inspections. He's amazing.
Hopefully all of them.
Yeah, that's right.
You have a choice of which home inspector you want to use, but I do recommend Jeff. He is amazing and great, and have personally used him personally also. So, but we've been together working together for
about 8 years.
8 years,
yeah.
do you think?
Yeah.
And
I've been in business just over 10 now. This is my 10th year.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
10 years.
Thank you, yeah.
That's great. 2023, probably a little bit harder than some.
The beginning of the year was actually pretty good. It was just, our typical slower times towards the end of the year around the holidays and things.
Yeah.
Which was a little rough this year, but...
Feeling the pickup? Are you feeling the movement?
Yeah. I haven't had a day off for quite some time lately. So January picked back up pretty solid. So.
That's bad and good at the same
good.
time.
I'll take it.
You'll take it.
It's a good
I've been
problem to
complaining
have.
for 2 months straight, so I think it's time that I...
So if you guys watched our last podcast, we talked a little bit about the buy-in process. And so what we wanted to do is kind of bring Jeff in and talk about inspections.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I don't know, anything else that was going on over the
Yeah,
weekend.
well, I mean, we got the Super Bowl coming up.
Yeah.
You're a football fan?
I am.
Yeah, so you got a team?
I'm a Broncos fan, so I'm definitely going Niners. So anybody who's...
I'm with you on the Niners.
No KC.
Come on.
I'm going KC. Come on. You got to jump on the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce bandwagon. I'm all about that.
I do not have to do that.
I do think I was really surprised to hear that he was passing Jerry Rice.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for most catches in a postseason.
Yeah, and I think and like
Mahomes and Kelce are about to both. God, it's weird that the girl knows more about football.
I was
right?
about to say
Yeah,
you just cut me off.
I know I did.
You do that a lot.
I'm sorry. But yeah, they're about to the most passes.
I think touchdown receptions
Yeah.
between a quarterback and
In
a
postseason.
Postseason,
Okay.
just postseason.
yeah, it's crazy
That's
because you
still
think
pretty
about
impressive.
Jerry Rice, right, and how long he was in the NFL.
Well,
but
no,
he also had Joe
but-
Montana and Steve Young, and I think maybe that's part of
Right,
it.
but
Right.
the
That's
pass
true.
was Tom Brady and Gronk that they are about to pass. I think,
I think
right?
that
Or
might
did
have
they
just been for tight
pass?
end. So it's overall receiving now.
Right,
And-
for as a
and-
tight end, that's what Travis
I
Kelce
think
just
so.
passed. But I think that they're about to pass Mahomes and Kelce. Oh, you're saying just
Flip that.
Yeah. No, they
Mahomes
did.
and
They are
Kelce.
the number one. But I think they passed Brady and Gronk as
Yeah.
the
And they-
team,
were they
and
one
then they
first?
passed Jerry Rice and Steve Young and Joe Montana.
Okay.
So I think they are the top duo in the NFL at this point for playoffs.
Because you're right. They did. Jerry Rice had 2 quarterbacks.
Right.
So to surpass it.
So I think that was a piece. But now he's
why,
like
who did he have? Steve Young and
Steve Young and
Joe Montana.
Oh, Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
Same time. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah. I should know that.
No, but I'm with you. I'm rooting for the 49ers. Patrick Mahomes is amazing. It's hard to root against him. The Kelce brothers are hilarious. I love.
They're so
Did you
great.
see
Their
the-
podcast.
the-
Yeah, like
was
out there with the Bills Mafia. and-
Yeah.
His podcast, their podcast is pretty awesome.
Oh, really?
New Heights.
Yeah.
So shout out to New Heights. Hopefully you'll see us one day.
So they're hard to root against, but being a divisional rival,
Yeah.
and then there's a lot of Colorado
Dan-
connections to the
For San
49ers.
Fran, right?
Yeah.
And McCaffrey,
McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey,
And
Shanahan.
So
It's
it's hard, So and I think Kansas City's favored.
Are they? I haven't looked.
I think they are.
So I typically root for the underdogs.
Yeah.
So
Oh, jeez. Just because we're Broncos fans, you can be a KFC fan or KFC.
I love Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I love Kentucky Fried Chicken too.
I too
Kansas
love
City Chiefs fan. KFC, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
really.
not quite. No.
Not quite.
I'm gonna start calling you Colonel Sanders.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's a funny mix up
I think
there.
I look
Next
like him.
podcast.
You've been giving me a really.
I'm gonna be like,
full gear.
glasses, white hair, yeah, and the Which they don't even call it Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore, right?
Well,
It's
I think
just
the word
KFC.
fried was bad there, so they went to KFC.
Darn health conscious.
Right. So
as we live in Denver, that is one of the most healthiest states. Oh, we did talk about that. Did we ever talk about that? So I don't know if you guys.
We did.
So we did?
I think so.
Okay. We talked about, I used to say, Colorado, second sunniest state in the nation. Well, my husband, Jay, thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
First, right?
No, I think Arizona is first.
Really?
And then Florida was third or fourth. Texas was up there. We are the sixth.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
According to, I don't remember who it was but I looked it up in a couple different podcasts.
And it was consistent.
Sites.
It wasn't just that one
it was
site.
consistent. We were sixth, but it was Texas, Colorado, and one other state were really close, by hours.
Yeah.
It was the differences by hours. So you could, if you want to clump them all into one, we could be third.
We don't want to clump them all into one.
Sorry, I don't think we're going to let you get away with that one.
Okay.
All right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, so Jeff, thanks for coming again.
Of course.
So we did talk a little bit about inspections in our last podcast, and I think a lot of people, believe it or not, in the public get confused. What's an inspection and what's an appraisal?
An appraisal, I get that a lot.
I know, which is...
I do. So appraisers, obviously, they figure out what your home is worth, the value of it. And they come and do their own, small evaluation and, do comps on the market in neighborhoods.
Right. But you are not an appraiser.
No,
you're an inspector.
I'm an inspector.
Yeah.
So basically what I do is I come in and I look at every aspect of the home. So we do full roof inspections, attic and structure, foundation, all of the electrical, all of the plumbing, all of the HVAC systems. We run everything, appliances, check every window, door, light switch, ceiling fan, the whole nine. So we get a broad scope of pretty much, checking everything.
Right.
So.
Did you say sewer?
We also do that. Yeah, we also do sewer lines, sewer line checks. So we do a scope that basically we stick a camera down the line and go all the way to the city sewer. Because, as you know, that can get real expensive quick if there's problems there. And also radon testing. So Colorado is considered a red state for radon. So I would say at least 50% of the homes that
Can you explain what radon is?
Yeah, so radon is a decay product of the soil. And because we're so close to the mountains here, a lot of the rock that we have in our soils, granite, lime, uranium, as it starts to decay, it creates this gas that is radon, which is now the second leading cause of lung cancer besides smoking. So it's just something that we can deal with. It's definitely, manageable to mitigate. But it's something that we definitely should test for, because it is considered health and safety items here.
Would you say that's the number one issue or that you find maybe in homes?
Maybe not the number one, but it is definitely a very common issue.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, when did radon fans start to get installed, as homes were built?
I think, as homes were built?
Yeah, because my first home was built in the 70s, obviously did not have one.
Correct.
But then my new home was newer, and so it had
they're just starting to regulate radon now.
Oh, wow.
So now builders have to put in a minimum of a passive system.
Okay.
Which is basically just the plumbing, and it has to be tied into either a perimeter drain or a crawl space, so that you can just add a fan and make it an active system, which is great. That's kind of half the cost, half the battle.
Right.
That's already there. And a lot of times when they put in these passive systems, they can do it during construction, so they hide the system so it's not on the exterior, so not as much of an eyesore.
So it's internal, and then you have it come out the roof.
Yep, and then you can put it in the attic space.
And then as the owner, I can go ahead and buy the fan and turn that into an active system.
You could, but you probably should not.
Oh. I should hire somebody that knows what they're doing.
You should hire somebody that knows what they're doing.
Okay, Johnny Homeowner. So you see a lot of Johnny Homeowner, don't you?
I do see a lot of that. And some of those systems you can find on my Instagram page.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty fun.
Yeah. So you have a highlight reel on your Instagram page of some of the
on
best
the
stuff?
page,
Okay.
Yeah, there's some stuff. And I take some pictures with my home inspection page as well.
So Jeff does own a radon company also,
Correct.
but because you own a radon company, you do not do your own radon testing?
I've tested. I was certified in testing for years, and I tested when I did my own home inspections.
But I mean, for your home inspection, like if we were to hire you, have a third party that comes out. And
now I do.
Yeah, because you own a radon.
And technically, it's not required for me to hire a third party. I just think it makes people feel more comfortable that when you come up with an issue, that you're not the guy that's like, hey,
I agree. I think that's very smart.
Yeah, so we just decided to go third party. That way that they know that we have no affiliation with other companies.
Right.
If it does come back high, we'd be more than happy to, help you out, shoot you a quote, and see, how that works out.
Makes complete sense.
Yeah, seems like the right thing to do.
And even, I kind of got that idea because people, even with sewers, even though you're sticking a camera down the line, they're like, oh, you found a problem. And I'm like, they have it on video. So, I mean, it's not like they're editing this video to make it look like there's an issue.
I just think the public has probably heard a lot of horror stories or had some issues that, there's
some shady contractors in any aspect. So.
And speaking of inspectors, I mean, you are certified. Do you have to be certified in
So you have to be certified, but you don't have to be state licensed for the home inspection portion. On the radon mitigation side, however, as of last year, you do have to be certified and state licensed to install radon.
So let me tell you, as a real estate broker, I have gone through, in my early career, I went through inspector after inspector after inspector because they did not have to be licensed. And with Jeff being licensed, what does that mean? It means
so basically, you just have to. It's just more testing that you have to take and carry a license
and
for
schooling,
that.
right?
Education.
That's what I meant.
Continued education.
Yes.
So you have to. There's different. You can either be ASHI or INTERNACHI certified. Those are the two major home inspection groups.
Okay.
And I actually was both at one time, but you don't have to carry both. I just thought that it made people feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
So I carried both. Right now I'm INTERNACHI certified, and you have to retake all of those continued education classes and take that test every couple of years.
Okay. So just if you are looking for a home inspector, you can know that Jeff is certified, and you've done how many? I mean, hundreds of home inspections.
No, I'm up to over 1,000. I'm up around 5,000 now.
Wow!
Yeah, so about 5,000. I'm actually a certified master home inspector, which means that you've done over 1,000 fee-paid home inspections. I hit that a couple of years ago.
Congratulations!
Yeah, thanks. So,
and you also do commercial.
And also I do commercial. Yes, so certified in commercial inspections as well. So broad scope.
So how many people actually reach that master inspector level?
I would say, I mean, it's not rare to find, but you would have to find somebody who's been in the business, at least 5 years to get to that point. Unless they started hitting the ground running where they're doing like my first year, you maybe do 200 inspections, something like that. I probably do 400 a year now.
Okay.
So it's, and then it can start to snowball into, pretty quick business.
Yeah.
So we're kind of curious if you have any great stories. I mean, I know that we've done some, a lot of inspections together, but I mean, when you have 5,000, I'm sure you have some great stories.
I mean, you think you see everything, and then you go to the next property, and you're just like, wow.
We just said that, didn't we? It's like we've been in the business a long time, and I still see things that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
It catches me more than you would think.
Yeah. So what is the craziest thing, or I don't know if there's one, but something...
I don't think that there's just one in particular, but so many times you will get into, a crawl space, and you'll be looking at the structure, and you can see contractors who have been in there that will cut out entire floor joists and sections of structural members just to run a small pipe, It's just, and I'm like, well, remember we talked about how your floors are sloping a little bit earlier?
I think I might know why.
I think I might have found out why.
Cut the floor joists.
And it's not uncommon. People, when they have a job to do, they don't think about, what needs to be there. They're just like, well, cut that out, notch it, and let's call it a day.
I mean, now that you say that, I'm wondering, if you go down in downtown Denver and some of these houses that have been there since the, 1900s, what that looks like.
Older homes are rough. Mountain homes are rough. Older homes, especially over 100 years, you got to think you've had 100 years of handymen, in there. Wrenching on those things
or the handyman, the homeowner just
with a cousin who does electrical. It kind of gets weird. But especially in the mountains as well. Those guys don't have readily available Home Depots and things, so they get pretty creative.
Creative is a good word.
Like, well, it works, doesn't it? And I'm like, oh, sure.
It may not be safe.
Yeah,
but
I can't say that it's the safest
works.
thing I've ever seen.
Or if a lot of snow goes on, your whole house may fall down. But
Exactly.
So if we're, being in Colorado, is there a specific issue that seems to kind of come up over and over again? And I've always heard the bentonite here.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. We have very expansive soils in Colorado, bentonite included. So as it gets hot and cold here, expands, contracts. We're known for having, some foundation issues.
Right. And bentonite being just clay soil, basically,
correct,
right?
yes.
That when water gets into it, it expands. And then, like you
contracts.
said, and then when it dries, it contracts.
Right. Yeah. So that allows a lot of movement and, concrete.
Yeah.
In Colorado, there's two types of concrete, the cracked and the brand new.
right. It's going to crack.
Right.
Yeah, cracked and it's going to crack. Yeah.
So it's not uncommon. They've come a long way with construction practices here in Colorado to where we're not quite doing as much slab on grade anymore. We're doing more structural floors, crawl spaces, things like that, because it allows some movement, without so much movement of the home itself.
Right. So that brings another point that you are actually certified to go look at new homes.
Correct.
Also.
Yeah. So
and
I do a lot of new builds.
Right. And I think that's something that a lot of the public thinks, like, oh, it's a new build, I don't need an inspection.
That is the
right?
wrong way to look at things.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think I agree with you because one of the stories, we won't say the builder and we won't say what subdivision, but
I bet I know what it is.
they bought a home and one person decided to do a sewer scope and the whole sewer line was like smashed from because they just built the roads and the big heavy trucks are coming in and out and smash the sewer, and so they had to redig the road up redo the road.
No, for sure.
Redig the sewer line up, and and that was not that long ago.
No, I've come across that as well. I actually had a property that, and this was, it was a roughly $1 million home. Yeah. And I had told the client, I said, I highly recommend a sewer scope, even on a new build. Things can happen. It could have a piece of drywall stuck in there, construction debris. It could have a belly, something. And she finally decided to do it. We scoped the line. And just like you were saying, I think they came and they finished the street like a day early. They had run the line to the middle of the street, but they hadn't attached it to the city sewer. Uh-huh. And we were actually the first people to do an inspection on this block, but they did end up having to rip up that whole block, and it went into a cul-de-sac.
So not one single sewer was connected at the street?
To the city main. So they had run the lines out there.
Wow.
But eventually if that would have gone unnoticed, that could have created sinkholes or it could have gotten...
Exactly. So, I think that is important that people know that, hey, just because it's new doesn't mean that everything is perfect.
Correct.
And honestly, have you ever walked into a home, new or not new, that has been absolutely perfect?
Never.
Or you haven't?
Never. Yeah. There's no such thing as a perfect home, And in my report, I put a lot of things that aren't necessarily real estate transaction worthy, that could just be preventative maintenance items, things that you can do to take care of the property over time.
Right.
So no, I've never done a home inspection that has zero defects.
Right.
And if you think about it, I tell my clients this, I said, when a builder starts building an entire neighborhood of a couple hundred homes, they subcontract basically everything out, and it's like a conveyor belt of contractors in there that have a certain amount of time to get things done, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, whatever the case may be. And if you don't think that there's room for human error in that mess, then you are sadly mistaken.
Humans make errors all the time. We make errors every day.
Let's be realistic.
Yeah. Well, and they are, some of these communities are going up pretty fast.
They're going up very fast.
Yeah.
So, not as fast as they used to. That's because we are
we
lacking some workers.
Worker shortage.
Yeah.
Well, and the supply chains,
Yes, ever since COVID,
that was definitely an issue.
Furniture, windows, I know.
Windows,
appliances.
COVID, garage doors was a huge problem. I saw there was a couple of neighborhoods up near Castle Rock that actually had to put fake framing and doors just to get their certificate of occupancy.
So that people could get into their new houses.
So people could move in because they were so back ordered on the garage doors that it wasn't going to happen. So.
Right, yeah.
So how, like, I'm buying a home
Sure.
and you come in, like,
What's that process?
well, I was going to ask, like, how do you help me as the homeowner, right? Like, what's the benefit I
Great
get?
question.
Because there is
The
some
buyer?
cost associated. Yeah, if
Sure.
I'm a buyer,
Sure.
there's a cost associated with getting the home inspection.
Absolutely.
I think, obviously, buying a home is one of the biggest purchases you're ever going to make in your life. So you want to make sure you're doing an informed decision.
Inspection. Yeah. And that's basically what I'm hired to do. You know, I kind of pride myself on not missing things. You know, I will note every little small thing or defect that I find with the property.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that those things are the end of the world. You know, it could be very small things, but you want to be fully informed of that, so that you run into as few surprises as possible.
And so I think what you're really good at is, Jeff, let's just say you find a roof issue, right? There's hail damage on the roof. So he just informs the buyer, hey, there's some hail damage. You may want to get a roofer who then is an expert just in roofing.
Sure.
To where your knowledge is very, very good. There's a general knowledge of everything.
It's wide.
And so
It's
you're,
wide.
yeah, it's
And
wide.
I always like to get, if I think that there's an issue with it, I like to get a second set of eyes on it
Right.
to somebody. So, you know, and most of the time they agree with me, but sometimes they may not.
Right.
And, you know, there's pros to that. When if you get a professional roofing company out there, they can also put a number on it.
Right.
And so, you know, if that roof needed replacement, they can kind of give you a cost. So you know, if that was necessary to
If you
negotiate
really
into
needed
the
a
process.
new roof, or
Correct.
if that's just a,
Or a
you know, a
5-year
couple
roof
hail.
certification and say,
Correct.
hey, you know, this roof is not going to leak. It's going to last, you know, but make
Right.
sure you keep up with your homeowner's
Right.
insurance.
And I would tell you that in inspections, the things that, as far as a real estate transaction, the big things are usually roof, HVAC,
sewer, electrical,
sewer,
plumbing.
structural.
Structural's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah, electrical, plumbing. And of course, whenever we have done one, you always, you know, will inform the client, because technically I'm not your client.
Correct.
The buyer is your client.
Right.
But, you know, usually the inspector, the buyer, and the realtor, we all discuss, because then that's a negotiation process
Correct.
for us to negotiate with the seller on what you
Yeah,
need.
I
And
like
it
to-
kind of starts with Jeff.
Yeah, and I like
your
to sit
knowledge.
down, as you know, I like to sit down with everybody after my inspection is done, and we'll kind of go over everything. We'll go over pictures, findings, recommendations, you know, just to kind of, so by the time they get my report, they start reading this and they know what I'm talking about, you know. And if they have any questions, they can always reach out to me.
And we will guide, Jeff will guide, I will guide, like, hey, you know, well, my biggest pet peeve, sorry, realtors, if this is a big thing you do, but GFCIs, can we talk about that for a
We
second?
can.
So, because you know that's one of my biggest issues. Oh, let's ask for the
Wait,
GFCI.
what is that? What is
it?
GFCI,
I'm sorry,
Kim?
that's a good question. We have found that we talk a lot of shop and we don't clarify.
So we try to call each other out.
Yeah.
Make sure, because
Yeah,
I mean, I know what GFCI is.
Well, I mean, you're the inspector. I know. What
Yeah,
it
so
stands for.
GFCI stands for ground fault circuit interrupter,
Right.
and basically is you know, the little outlets with the reset buttons on it, and it's designed to trip if it's overloaded.
Right. Or if water,
if
like in
water
a
gets
kitchen.
in it, correct.
And over the years, the standards have changed,
They
right?
have. So they were not required in all the places that they are now.
Right. So like a kitchen,
Kitchen,
is
bathroom.
Kitchen, bathroom, garage, exterior,
washing machine.
machine,
big one.
the unfinished portion of a basement near the HVAC. So there's
Because I remember the house that I've talked about many times that we bought, it had maybe one GFCI.
Yeah.
And like you had to go down in the basement
And reset
like
it.
and reset
Yeah.
it to find it.
Yeah.
And like it could be the bathroom upstairs, and that was the one
they
that
do
it was.
put them in some creative areas for
Yeah.
like the exterior
Yes.
outlets.
Yeah.
But why is this a big pet peeve for me? Because, right, like we said, standards have changed. And so
Correct.
if you buy a house in the 90s and now you have to have one in the kitchen, there's not one in the kitchen usually. And so, of course, Jeff doing his job points it out. And then as a buyer, they want to ask for it. But how big of a fix is that?
So it depends. If the property is wired correctly, it's not that big of a deal. It's a pretty simple fix. Obviously, if it were an older home that doesn't have grounds,
Right. I understand
then it's going to be probably an additional cost. So the thing with electrical and updating is it's only required to meet standards when that property was built. So if that home was built in 1975 it probably met 1975 standards at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's all original in that house, it's basically grandfathered in. Do we recommend that you update that? Absolutely.
Yes.
But anytime you update something, so if you were to remodel your kitchen, now you have to get it up to current standards. So, and they changed the locations. I think they updated that, and I think it was 1998.
So I'm going to harp on this more.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
So let's say we just buy a house that was built in the 90s, and you have to point out, hey, you're missing GFCI in here. Is it not just a different outlet that you can buy, or it's like a $10 fix, right?
Well, actually, those outlets are more like $30.
Oh, $30.
It's inflation for you.
So inflation, darn it! Now that's showing my age or how long I've been in the business.
Like $6-7.
$10 No, $30. Okay, well, I mean that just went up 300%.
So they can get expensive, but the thing with
expensive.
I'm sorry.
Relatively to a house, I mean, is a $30 fix. I'm just saying, as a real estate broker, of course, I will do whatever the buyer wants me to do, but to negotiate a $30 plug in a $100,000, $500,000, $700,000, $800,000 house.
Yeah.
Sometimes it seems like you should concentrate on the bigger issues of the home.
And I tell my clients this in my report. I kind of I highlight things in kind of a low, medium, and high in my report. And I tell people, the low is kind of DIY projects, things that you can do yourself. The medium, depending on your level of comfortability, you could probably handle 75-80% of it, obviously. And this is what happens a lot with the GFCIs is people aren't comfortable with electrical.
Right.
And I don't recommend if they're not comfortable with electrical to do it themselves.
All right. So I guess Jeff's talking me the other way. Maybe we'll ask for GFCIs.
I'm just saying it's if they're not comfortable doing the work, you want that done correctly because that could be,
it could be,
horrible issue.
Yeah, you could get electrocuted.
Yeah. So here's my...
Okay, so did I just lose that?
No, you're good.
No.
You're
Argument?
good. You might have. I don't know.
I may have.
You might have. Here's my complaint with GFCI.
Uh-huh.
My bathroom breaker is over my garage. And anytime my wife does a curling iron and a blow dryer, it pops and it resets my sprinkler box. And so I have then my sprinklers won't run. My inspector probably should have caught that.
I was going to say you might need a new breaker.
Maybe. No, I mean it's not every time.
You know,
but it is but it's then my sprinklers don't run and my
Maybe
grass turns brown.
Jeff.
I'm like, what's going on? Why aren't the sprinklers running? Because the clock is off and it won't run.
And you're like,
Too bad you weren't a handyman too. We can just
I
send
know.
you over there.
Do you have a good electrician that you can recommend?
I do have a good electrician I can recommend. And I'll tell you, that's a great thing about having a realtor that's full time. They usually have people that they can direct you. So Jeff goes in, tells you, all the things that, and we will help guide you like, hey, these are important things. These are not important things. And usually we have people, right? I have an HVAC person. I have a plumber.
It's good
I have an electrician.
It's good to keep some trades in your pocket.
Yeah.
People that you trust, people that do good work, and
Yes.
that aren't going to, take advantage of the client.
And actually, I think I started to say, it took me a long time before you and I really started working together. I went through a couple home inspectors and Jeff is the best that I have found. He is amazing.
Well, I will say though, Kim is picky, right? And she if she is referring somebody, it's going to be somebody that she's vetted, she knows is going to do a good job and take good care of you.
And I'm the same way. When it comes out, so I didn't take it personally. You
got
to earn your stripes and then
Yeah, you do. You have to. You do kind of have to earn that.
I didn't start using Jeff when he was green and not that there's anything wrong with it, right? Because everyone has to start someplace. Yeah. Everyone has to, I didn't just get to 20 years off of not being, new at one point.
Right.
And so, but it is nice to know that you have someone that, like you said, trusts and knows their stuff.
In all of our businesses that we're in, we're all kind of tied together, but we all are running individual businesses. Referrals and people who we know are going to do a good job. That's the area that we work in, right?
Yes.
Like everybody who is referred, we trust. And I know for me personally, if somebody that I know has had some work done by a sub or a contractor, and they say this guy came in and did a good job, I'm already at a better level of trust than somebody who's walking in off of the street, because 100%. There are, like you said, a lot of those guys who
fly by night,
and
they're not around very long.
Right.
And I've heard some horror stories. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you probably see them too.
I do, and people get left and they're like, oh, I hired this contractor to come in and do this, and he did half the job, and we paid him, and then he took off, and I'm like, that's...
You know what I think I've seen a lot that I think I see homeowners doing right now, and you tell me because you probably see more, is this whole going from LED lights to how it affects the switches and the lighting and what am I trying to say?
It
what
does.
Is it?
So I actually love the LEDs.
I do too.
Yeah, you just have to make sure they're installed correctly.
Right, because they're different amps, right?
They are. They're different amps, and they actually don't take the light bulbs are going to take more wattage than your LEDs.
Right. But there seems to be a lot of problem where people are kind of flickering, right? Yeah, like fix and flips. I think you see them a lot in fix and flips.
They do a lot of fix and flips and a lot of it's because they don't upgrade their service. So they're buying older homes. They don't upgrade the service, so they're kind of overloading those breakers because a lot of them were like at 100 amps or something like that, and they just maybe have too much on that individual circuit. So if you're trying to put 15 lights and 10 outlets on the same one, you start running stuff, you're going to have some flickering,
I need more juice.
Yeah. I have a husband who's really handy. I mean, he did build custom homes for 15 years, so he's a little more handier.
He's a little more handy than most.
But electrical, like we have some LEDs that are flickering, and I'm always like, we should get our electrician in there to fix that. So Justin will probably be calling you soon. So I guess to wrap up, is there anything that you think is important for the public to know about home inspections?
I always think it's best to go in as well informed as you possibly can in this process. So, anything, when it comes down to home inspections, sewer scopes, radon testing, anything that you have concerns about, now's the time to do it well. Things checked. Yeah.
To do it in the beginning. And you and I have done this before. I mean, there have been homes that, we have put under contract. You've come in, and as, the buyer and I talk, it may not be the right fit. It might be good to move on.
And people ask me this question all the time. They're like, would you buy this home? And I'm like, probably not the best person to ask. Like, I grew up, I have a construction background. I've been in this business. I know that anything is fixable. It's how much do you want to put into it? How much are you willing to do?
How handy are you?
Right, how comfortable are you to do that kind of thing?
Yes.
So, it's once you get into home ownership, it's
a whole different ballgame.
It's a continuous project.
Yes.
It never ends.
Never ending. You got to be prepared for that.
It's the American dream.
Right? Yeah.
But there's always deferred maintenance, or not deferred maintenance. But of course, when you inspect a house, you see a lot of deferred maintenance.
Oh, absolutely.
And
you can tell people that keep up with their, with maintaining things, and people, and things that are a little bit rough.
Right.
Can we predict the future? No. We can test things during our inspection and see how it's functioning, make sure that it's safe and meets, current standards. But there's always that chance there can be some surprise.
Right. The big thing, I think, not a big thing, but in Denver, a lot of HVAC issues, right?
Yeah.
AC, heat, and it could be working at the time that you inspect it, but then, 24 hours later, lasts a year, less than a year, and that's part of home ownership. But, hopefully we educate you as best as possible, and we,
Yeah, we always. On my side, we always run serial numbers, and we like to get the age of it to see if it's been maintained, to see if it looks like it's been serviced and how things are functioning. But we are also not HVAC technicians, so we can't check freon and coolant levels and make sure that we can't take it apart quite as much as they can.
Right. But the number one thing is, it doesn't matter if you're buying older, newer, commercial. You do it all.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And yes, it's still a big part of the process.
And you're worth every penny, because when it's usually the biggest purchase that you make in your life, you want to make sure that it's, good and not going to have a structural issue or, Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking to purchase a house, how do I get a hold of you?
So you can always call me directly. Also, my website is actually a new website, which we have up right here, best5280homeinspector.com.
Oh, nice.
But your name of your company is from the
ground
ground
up
up.
home inspection. Yep, my name is Jeff Breco. All of my contact information's on there. I don't know, should I?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nope. I mean, you can give them your phone number. You might as well do that.
Phone number's 720-385-6903. Feel free to reach out, even if you just have any questions about anything.
Yeah. And
glad to help.
we'll put it on our YouTube site so then you can see it there, along with all your phone numbers, emails.
The name of the radon mitigation company is Metro Radon Company, and that is denvermetroradon.com.
Yeah. And then hopefully maybe we'll have you or your partner in here
That'd be great. Yeah.
talk about mostly radon, because I think radon is a big thing.
That would be awesome.
in
Yeah,
Denver.
Krista Metcalf, my partner on the radon company, she's great. She knows more about radon than most people I've ever met.
Well, that's good since it's a radon company.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, of course, you can find Patrick and I on Broker Banter Denver on YouTube and on
Spotify and iTunes. And if you found any value, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if there's any value, right? Give us a 5-star rating, like us, share us.
Subscribe.
Please do. Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Go 49ers.
Go Niners.
Boo.